a lot of people, especially women, because we're more cortisol sensitive, they actually do that, and it has a reverse effect. And what that means is they're eating less, they're working out more, and they're either not losing weight or they're gaining weight.
Hi, everybody. Reza Kazimpour with Six Ring and Ellie with Elevate. Thank
Hi.
you for coming to our second podcast. And we're talking about fat retention.
Yes.
And what was the other?
So we're talking about how people think that eating less is going to help them lose fat.
Yeah,
But it turns out it actually does the reverse.
exactly.
Yeah.
Right. This is the thing, there's such a big misconception that people walk around and you do all these things. We have, we wear our watches, we have all these devices that tells us if we do this, we lose weight. But what does that really mean to you? Because we all have different ingredients in our body. No one really knows like what that is. We get told again by so many people. Some of it there's no science. Some of it there is. But do you think it becomes willpower?
I think it's a little bit more complex than that. So it used to be that people thought kind of calories in, calories out,
Right.
and they would calculate how many calories they would have to eat in a day to be in a deficit, and then how many calories are they burning through workout and exercise, and then they would think, okay, as long as I'm in a deficit, that I'm going to lose weight. And it looked different for everyone because it depends on where you start, where your goal, body fat and weight is. And based on that, they would have like this calculation. And I wish it was that easy, but it's not. And I'm not saying that calories don't matter. They do. But it's more complex than that. A lot of people think that the less they eat, the more fat they will lose, especially if their goal is weight loss and fat loss.
Right.
They think, okay, I need to eat less food and, like eat 1,000 calories a day and I should lose weight and work out and then I should lose weight. A lot of people, especially women, because we're more cortisol sensitive, they actually do that, and it has a reverse effect. And what that means is they're eating less, they're working out more, and they're either not losing weight or they're gaining weight. And there is a really good explanation why. So as women, we have all these hormones that need to be in balance and harmony throughout our cycle to help us with the weight loss journey. And a lot of times when you're eating barely anything or very little for your metabolism needs, that does a few things. So that tells your body that you're not safe. And when you're not safe, you store more fat. Because as humans, we used to basically be in feast or famine, and in the winter we didn't have a lot of food, so we had to eat whatever we could. And what that would signal to our body is to store all the fat you can so that you could use it when there's not enough food. And so it's an actually smart system our body does, especially for women, because we're childbearing. We just need to have higher fat percentage in order to be healthy as beings. And so when you're eating less food, your body doesn't know it's 2026 and you have all the access to the food you can.
Yes.
And so it thinks, we're in starvation mode. Let's store everything you can and save it for later when, it's famine time. And so it just makes your body feel less safe. And so it puts it in fat storage mode. As opposed to when you're eating enough calories for your body and your activity level, your body feels more safe, cortisol goes down, and that's when your body lets go and burns more fat.
Right. And this is a great subject because I've seen it, and there's a big fine line between men and women. I know I have a lot of friends, women that work out almost like daily, and they try to track their caloric intake. But at the same time, they're always complaining about, I have a belly. And, they're doing sit-ups, they're trying to take, but what do you think that is? And I know, like I said earlier, everyone's built so differently because you could be taking the advice and doing one thing, whether it's an app, whatever it might be, that's telling you to do one thing, but then you're not seeing what's a realistic goal that people should have, at least for most of our audience, like let's say they're starting off, like what do you think a realistic goal is for your caloric intake? To learn like, hey, this is how you retain fat, this is how you burn fat, this is where calories really should be going. What do you recommend for that?
So I don't really like counting calories that much. I think it's more about your food composition, but I like to teach my clients how to make a good plate. So every plate needs to have some fiber through some greens. It needs to have some moderation of healthy fat. Now with fat, we have to be mindful of the amount because it's very dense calorically. So I'm not saying calories don't matter, but we just need to be more mindful of
Right.
it. We need to have a good amount of protein and some healthy carbohydrates. Now, that carbohydrate could come from healthy sources. So, for example, sweet potatoes, purple potatoes,
I love both of those
white,
too. Yeah.
yeah, white
Yeah.
rice especially that has been cooled off, so it becomes resistant starch. That's another great example of good carbohydrates. If someone has a sweet tooth or they love fruit,
Right.
fruit could be a part of their dessert as a carbohydrate in their meal. And so I like to start with at least 1 to 2 palms. So this is how I measure things. It's about 4 ounces of protein in each meal. And then more than half of your plate needs to be greens. It could be a salad with mixed vegetables. It could be baby greens like spring mix. It could be herbs. As Persians, we love to implement
Exactly.
herbs. And so I do a lot of different kind of herbs as a side dish for myself. And then I either do a side of fruit that's not very high in the glycemic index, or I do like a purple potato or a sweet potato or a little bit of rice. And that's how I like to make every plate.
Yeah.
So for me, it's not so much about, calories. It's more about what's on your plate. A healthy fat would be a quarter of an avocado to half an avocado. If you like avocados, it could be a tablespoon of high quality olive oil on your salad as dressing. And so that's how I help my clients. It's not about calories so much. It's more about how nutritious is the calories that you're taking.
Yeah, and these are all really easy things to go buy from the grocery store.
Yes.
And easy enough to take and make.
Yes.
That's the biggest thing. Like
Yes.
again, for someone like myself, single, I'm working and running around. To be able to do these things on my own, I needed to be quick and efficient so I can run back and do what I was doing. And like all of these things I do on a daily basis. I'll cook sweet potato the night before, and I leave it, put it in the fridge, and I'll put some honey into it. And I have like 2 or 3 days. I love sweet. Same thing with avocado. I'll eat a whole avocado just on its own.
Open it, yeah.
So they're great and they're easy enough to do. But what's a good rule of thumb would you recommend? Again, just for people on the go to just have, should they mash these up? Because I used to do this myself. I used to put sweet potato and avocado in baggies. Just leave it in my car. So I'm at the office or wherever I'm at, or if I'm just driving, like today I had a whole thing of blueberries and bananas.
Yeah.
I was munching on those on the drive here.
Yeah.
But what's a good rule of thumb? Again, like we talked about the last show, about getting into that habit.
Yes.
When you're hungry to have proper snacks, proper things they can
Yes.
eat on a daily basis, what would be a good rule of thumb that you
So
would
a little
recommend?
bit of prep is key, and that's one challenge. Some clients would never go into the kitchen. They don't want to go into the kitchen, and I understand why, because it's, it takes a little bit of effort. But everything I make for my family and myself takes less than 30 minutes. So it's not like I'm in the kitchen for 2 hours. It's just making some protein, adding some greens, a clean carbohydrate, and sometimes I add like things like sauerkraut or kimchi when I can, because they have great probiotics. But I keep it really simple. And for on-the-go people, like I said, the Pioneer Pasture Protein Shake is a great hack because it's easy and portable and it's shelf stable. So I would always have that on hand as protein.
So you have like one of those a day or multiple?
If I'm on the go, yes.
Okay.
You can even have multiple. You can have like 2 a day when you're out, because it's a great way of supplementing protein if you're not getting enough of it. Another thing I do is if I know I'm going to be going to the office or like a podcast day like today, I would pack myself a plate of some hard-boiled eggs, some greens, some blueberries or some sort of a berry that doesn't go bad, maybe some nuts like...
Did you bring any? Because I'm hungry now.
Maybe I'll share mine with you later. Some nuts like, like pistachios or something like that. That's dry roasted, no oil. And, things of that sort. And then maybe a side of another fruit.
Yeah.
And I bring that in like a little to-go tray for myself.
Okay.
So that when I get hungry, I can make
Just munch on that.
good choices. And the key is to stay away from snacking as much as possible and having actual meals. So if you get hungry, sit down to an actual meal. Make sure you have some protein, some fiber, some fruit as carbohydrate, and that's going to make you feel more satisfied, and it's going to fuel you for a couple hours so you don't feel hungry again in an hour.
So if you don't have like devices and you're not taking tests, again, just like for the average person, what do you think the key factor is? How do you know like you've eaten enough of like all of these things that we're talking about? Because typically you eat until you're like, okay, I'm not hungry anymore, right? But what is a good, like you said, I love the palm thing you told me today. Like I'm gonna start doing that. I love that. But when you are eating these things, is it kind of the same concept?
Yes.
Like
So for protein, I would say for women and men, they can, because I'm a girl, but I eat a lot of protein. So for me, it's 2 palms a meal of
Okay.
protein. If it's steak, chicken, salmon, whatever it is, I do 2 palm sizes, which gives me about at least 50 grams of protein.
A day or like every meal?
Every meal.
Every
So
meal.
every meal, 3 times a day. I do
Okay.
3 meals a day. And I do 1 to 2 palms of protein and then 2 handfuls of greens. So it could be mixed greens, it could be herbs, it could be a salad.
Okay.
Okay. And of course, the more vegetables you add, the better. But we're talking about bare minimum here. Okay. And then some sort of a healthy fat, maybe like a quarter of an avocado. Personally, I don't exceed that as a woman, but I would say a quarter of an avocado for women and half avocado for men, for that meal.
Right, right.
And then if you like carbohydrates or you're not super low carb, you could add a side of fruit. So it could be, I personally like berries, but you could do any fruit that you really like and just do 1 serving of that fruit. And that's how you measure it. It's literally you eyeball it and you don't even need to have a measuring tool. If you want to be super specific, there is apps like MyFitnessPal that if you want to track your intake for 3 to 5 days, just to kind of see where you are and then where you need to make improvement, you could if you're super data driven like yourself.
You know, it's tough. You know, that again, those a lot of the tools out there, they're great if you put in the time and fill it out.
It's overwhelming too.
Right? It's very overwhelming. And even with the data, even like with what I provide, if you don't know what to do with it, if you don't have someone telling you like, this is what, you have to take meaning out of the data.
Right.
So unless you have that, it's like going to the doctor and doctor reading, well, here's your blood test. Like, okay, what does that mean? What is that? Am I going to live? Am I going to die? So it's kind of the same thing. All these tools and all these things are available. It's like we talked about before, unless you have someone explaining and telling you from a consultative perspective, like what to do. And I love that's what you do for your clients.
I do, yeah.
But unless you actually have that to be able to understand like what all this stuff means, like everything we're talking about sounds great, but how many people are going to actually do it?
That's right.
Because even most people like me, I go out, I do my best to follow a plan, but 90% of the time I'm eating out, right?
Yeah.
I'm door dashing, I'm going to the restaurants. So when I am doing this, again, it doesn't matter, I think if you're a man or woman, like when you're eating out a lot, let's say you have a nice dinner, like what should an average human being like look for when you are looking at that menu?
Yeah.
Right? Because you want a good intake of protein and your veggies and everything else. So what would you recommend like for most people?
So I would recommend you always have your hands with you, right?
Yeah.
So you can use my measurement techniques to kind of analyze, okay, I'm ordering a dish, look at the ingredients, make sure there's a good amount of protein. If you're not sure how many ounces of protein is in there, you can ask them. And then I would always say, make sure if the food doesn't come with some sort of a cooked vegetable like broccoli or carrots or mixed vegetables, then to make sure you add a side of cooked vegetables or a salad. Some people don't love cooked vegetables.
Which every restaurant has.
Which every restaurant has. So you could always, add a side order and then make sure there's some sort of a clean carb if you really love carbohydrates. I wouldn't say like French fries because that's just fried in oil and they're usually not good quality
That's too
oil.
bad,
And so
'cause I love
if you
French
love
fries.
French fries, you can make it at home in avocado oil and you're fine. It's not about, potatoes are not bad for you and, oil, a clean version of oil like an avocado or olive oil in moderation.
So I can take my French fries to the restaurant with me.
Or maybe just say, I'm going to eat French fries at home.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, if you can. And once in a while is not a big deal. But if it's an everyday thing, then it will add up.
Okay.
Especially if your goal is weight and fat loss.
Yeah.
So it depends on your goal. Like if you're in maintenance mode and what you're doing is working for you, then I would say continue doing that. But if someone's trying to lose weight or lose fat or lower their BMI, then you have to make some changes. And I would say change one thing at a time, go slow, but you do have to, if you continue doing the same thing you've been doing, you're not going to see a change.
Exactly.
And so if if your goal is to lose some fat, then you would have to stay away from the
Well,
French
that's the
fries.
thing, because everybody wants to see results.
Yeah.
So the biggest thing is like, how much time, money, effort do I have to put into this to go from this to that? Everybody wants those before and afters, right?
Yes.
And the unfortunate thing is for a lot of people is that there's always, the motivation is based on an event. It's very event driven.
Right. Like a
I'm
wedding.
going to a wedding.
Yeah.
I'm going to a birthday party. I'm going to a bachelor, like I have to lose weight. I have to do this. And then after that, they go back to the same habits again.
Yeah.
Right. So being able to sustain that and continue it, I think to find your own, and it's going to be different for everybody, but to find that motivation and that habit. So it's not event based, but you just continue to go. So every day is an event.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Every day should be you, because all of these things that we're talking about is not just physically making you feel better, but mentally. And if you're mentally feeling better, the rest of your body is going to feel amazing. And that's the biggest thing. So
that's right. What you're talking about is really more like a diet culture mentality
Right.
of a short-term plan. And while those things might work short term, they might not be sustainable long term, which is why you see a lot of people yo-yo dieting. They go on this really extreme diet, they lose 20 pounds in 20 days, and then they're right back where they are 2 weeks later because it's hard to sustain that kind of lifestyle. So I always say we need to think about long term and making these habits into your lifestyle.
Exactly.
And something that you can sustain over time. So you're not going on this yo-yo diet bandwagon, because the more you do that, the more motivation you lose in yourself. My goal as a health coach is to help my clients make habits that are sustainable, that are doable based on their life, their schedule, and building up on it one at a time and taking the pressure off so that you have more confidence in your ability and more motivation to want to make those changes.
100%. Ellie, this is great. I don't know if there's anything else you want to add to this, our podcast here, but I think this has been a great discussion. And I think it'd be very helpful for a lot of people, and they can always come back and ask additional questions.
Exactly.
But this has been amazing. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.